Hello again, this is Emad Aysha, sci-fi researcher and author, Cairo, Egypt. I want to apologize, however, this is the daytime, so there's a lot of noise coming from the outside, specifically construction crew. But, you know, filming at nighttime is difficult. That's when I sleep. That's the only time when there isn't any noise. So, what else can I say that's wrong with Dune Part 1? The list is endless. There's phony diversity quotas, there's cultural appropriation, there's Orientalism, there's postmodern laziness specifically. But I'm going to leave those to another day. Each one you could do an entire book film on. I'm going to focus more on the technical side of the movie, at the level of visualization and science fiction, and at the level of just of writing and pacing. Two scenes that are especially bad, and you only understand just how bad they are and how badly put together they are, how badly conceived, when you compare them again to the David Lynch movie. Now, first scene, the scene with the guild liner, when the spaceships from the Atreides go up from Caladan onto the guild liner and then go to Dune. Strictly speaking, there's nothing wrong with the scene, but there's nothing right with it either. It's dull and boring. That's the main sin to it. And you felt that they may have done that deliberately, once again to de-emphasize the Spacing Guild, as if they're nothing but an air crew for a plane and not the people who practically run the galaxy, because they have a chokehold on all transportation. And transportation is impossible without spice, because those are, you know, minor details in the novel that don't need to be highlighted in the movie version. Now, the problems with the scene, just at a purely technical and artistic level, you have the Atreides ships, which don't look very good, and that's just a minor quibble on my part. They go up into the air, and you see tiny little specks of dust going into this large metallic worm thing, which is the guild liner. Now that technically should be a good thing. There's an emphasis on the size of the guild liner by making these things look how tiny. But it doesn't work. Why? Once again, look at the David Lynch movie. The David Lynch movie, you see the spaceships, and they're beautiful, of the Atreides, and they're big, and you notice how big they are because you see the people going into them at the bottom, and they look like ants. And there's very good visualization there. There's very good usage of forced perspective and scale. You don't get that with the new movie. And then you get another shock to the system. As big as those spaceships are, because of how tiny the people are going into them, you realize that they're nothing compared to this massive guild liner. And then you get another shock to the system once they go inside the guild liner. There's this metallic lattice, this honeycomb pattern that the spaceships slot themselves into, which is impressive, and it looks like a hangar. It gives you the feeling of, again, how tiny they are compared to a giant thing like a hangar where you put planes or ships or whatever, or tanks in. And you see on the inside huge cavernous empty space where the guild navigator is, which again creates this sense of size. And the guild navigator is a big thing. We've seen him from the opening sequence of the movie. So again, that creates a sense of scale. You have also on the inside of the guild liner, you have what look like spires and pipes and railway lines and towers. So you realize that you're not looking at a spaceship, a mothership, as big as it is. You're looking at a floating city. It's like a habitat, like people live in there. And that's genius, again, on the part of the director and the special effects people, the production people. They know how to mess with your mind. They know how to use reference points that pull you into it and dazzle you. And it's more than that. It's the beauty of it. And the beauty of it in the kind of world that Frank Herbert created. You have a silvery guild liner, not dull metallic gray, silver, and then you have the doorway and it's gold. it's got lovely etching and decorations on it. All of that is aristocratic. The world of aristocracy, which is the world of Dune, the world of chivalry and heraldry and castes of people and knights and swashbuckling, is a world of emblems and decorations and embroidery and things that are there just for their own sake, that they don't need to be justified. The beauty is enough. The world of aristocracy, these are people who don't have to work for a living, don't have to work in the fields or work in a factory or even work as accountants or anything like that, executive jobs. They can live for beauty. So they dedicate their lives to poetry and architecture and music and opera and all these things. And that's where all that wonderful culture we have, classical music, comes from. And theatre and architecture and botanical gardens and all these things. Compare and contrast that to the new movie, where everything is bland and boring and done in the same mundane, decoration-free, decoration-empty, postmodernist style. It looks like a world of IT, computer industry, where everything is done to measure, everything is done produced in a conveyor belt to the same size. You have endless expanse of bland, boring surfaces, whether it's buildings or spaceships or uniforms or anything, or technology. Nothing is embroidered, nothing has decorations on it. Hardly anything has emblems on it. And in the world of aristocracy, you have endless pompous families trying to outdo each other, so everybody tries to produce their own style, their own distinctive architectural style or furniture style or clothes style. There's none of that in the new movie. Also, the spaceships going into the Guild Liner in the David Lynch movie, they're going in single file, so to speak, curved line. And that's perfect because it's a military, these are military vessels. They have to keep regulation distance from each other, and they have to go in an ordered fashion or they'll crash into each other. In the new movie, they're just little specks of dust, and they're random, and there's no fixed distance between them. And these are supposed to be an armada of vessels with trained pilots who are cautious so as not to bump into each other. And also, the David Lynch movie, because you have this lovely regular entry into the vessel, into the Guild Liner, you have music. It's choreographed. It's beautifully choreographed. It's a dance. There's none of that here. Watching the new movie, it's like watching the Titanic disembarking with the sound turned off. You know, part of the appeal of watching a ship disembarking or a train leaving is the sound. The choo-choo sound, the people crying, people laughing, people waving. All of that's gone. It's just dull. I mean, even the Guild Liner in the new movie looks like a metallic slug. And it looks flat. It looks like concept art. You don't feel that this is a model or a 3D image. It doesn't come out towards you. It doesn't feel substantive and real. So that whole sequence is just inexcusably bad in the new movie, with all these fancy special effects and a director who's always described as being an artist and a great visualist and a guy who likes to do things with models, not just CGI. It falls flat. And maybe deliberately so, again, to de-emphasize the Guild Liners. And here you're seeing straight away art being sacrificed for plot convenience, the world-building convenience. It's inexcusable. Now, okay, but it's not the worst scene in the world, and it's not a major, how do you say, it doesn't debilitate the movie. But it's an indicator of something wrong, something very wrong, at the core of how they decided to do the movie. Ill-conceived and badly executed. The Guild Liner sequence in the first movie is one of the best sequences in the movie. I liked it as a kid, even though I didn't like the movie at all. And I hadn't read Dune, didn't know anything about it. Now, second scene, and this is the really harrowing scene. The whole episode of Duke Leto being betrayed by Wellington Yue, and then Wellington Yue being killed by the Harkonnens. The David Lynch movie, needless to say, is much closer to the text. Detailed dialogue, detailed character dynamics, and the actual events of what happened, but simplified. and effective. The Denis Villeneuve is not true to the novel, and instead of simplifying it and speeding it up, they elongate it and make it and add things that are cliched and vulgar and stupid and useless. And bear with me, I'll prove what I say, word by word. A general lesson here: the more that you invest in a character, the director, the movie, more invests in a character, the more the audience feels the weight of the loss of that character when he gets killed. Now, what do you see in the David Lynch movie? You have Duke Leto looking at his concubine and lamenting that he didn't marry her because he loves her and she's a good, loyal woman. And you also have him telling his son, "Go to sleep peacefully, my son." And this is after the assassination attempt on Paul. And Paul is asleep, and he tries to call out to his father and warn him that his life is in danger because the Reverend Mother put a hex on him, and he can't, through voice, and he can't tell his father that he's going to die. So that's a very emotional, warm scene, and so you have a lot invested in Duke Leto. Then Duke Leto sees the Shoutout Mapes, and he gets a needle stuck into him by Wellington Yue, and he sees that Yue is the traitor that they've been looking for all this time, and he can't believe it, and you can see the shock on his face, and you can feel it. Why? Because you're looking at what's happening through his eyes, because of that emotional investment previously. Him looking at his concubine, him with Paul, and lamenting, and you can tell that his doom is coming. You know, when somebody's recollecting things and reminiscing on mistakes, you know that something is going to happen, or at least you instinctively know it. None of that is in the new movie, of course. And the worst of it is, in the old movie, we know that Yue is the traitor because we have the Shoutout Mapes telling them that there's a traitor, and we have a scene where he gets a secret message with instructions in it. And despite that fact, we still feel the shock of discovering he's the traitor because we're looking at things through the eyes of Duke Leto. We've been immersed in his world, his subjective world, his dilemmas and his past mistakes and the battle of wills happening inside his heart. In the new movie, we don't know that Wellington Yue is the traitor, and it's hidden from us. We don't have that whole subplot of the Shoutout Mapes warning them, which makes you wonder why they have the Shoutout Mapes there to begin with. And when you see him, he's the traitor, you're not surprised. You don't feel anything at all. Surprised, not surprised. It's just unimportant, insignificant. It's just a functionary. He's not a character. He doesn't have a personality or role to play. He's just the family doctor, and he's basically no different than an orderly or a servant. Anybody could do his job. That's the way it feels in the new movie. And this is inexcusable because Dr. Yue is an important person in the novel. He's not just the doctor. He's not just the person who has all the secrets of them. He has access to them in the most intimate way possible. He knows all of their secrets, all their health secrets. This is a family doctor. And in an aristocratic world where you have to be absolutely sure of the person you're hiring because he could betray you to your rivals, that's the world of the novel, which, again, the new movie just doesn't seem to understand. This is a world of aristocracy. This is not the world of holding companies and accountants and accounting firms and outsourcing. This is a very different world. This is the old world of the Middle Ages, or the world of 18th century aristocracy, or the world of antiquity. Doesn't understand that. And Wellington Yue isn't just the doctor, he's also the religious and moral instructor for Paul. He's the person who actually says that life isn't a subject to be studied, it's an experience to be immersed in, not Janus. He actually says that in the original novel. And Paul tells the Reverend Mother that the first time he meets her. He quotes Dr. Yue, and she's impressed and taken aback and can't respond. The Bene Gesserit witch discovers that there are other people out there who have philosophies just as sophisticated as theirs. And that Paul, even though he's like 15 or 13, is actually a very smart boy on account of his Atreides upbringing and education. But you can't allow the Atreides to look good in a movie where they're the heroes. Imagine that. Anyway, so again, you're not invested in the characters. You're not invested in Duke Leto because you don't have those lovely emotional scenes prior to that scene where he gets killed, and you're not invested in Wellington Yueh. He's just a bland cardboard cutout character, which is a real shame because the actor they got is a good actor, and he's Chinese, so you could add extra layers of significance, of cultural significance, cultural references. China means Oriental wisdom, the wisdom of ages. It means acupuncture. It means herbal medicine. That's a very good way of phrasing the character of Wellington Yueh and give him extra depth. But they completely don't take advantage of that opportunity and give you a bland cardboard cutout of a character. Anyway, the Duke finds the shot-out Mapes, gets needled, and do you see any shock on his face? No. Why? Because we're not aware that there's a traitor. The shot-out Mapes subplot has been removed. And then they have this boring conversation. Said, "Why did you do it?" "Well, I have to. They have my wife." "Really? I didn't know that." That's it. Then it cuts to another scene. Then it cuts back to them, and he tells them, "I want you to kill a man for me. Here's the poison gas tooth." Yeah, but you're supposed to be speeding things up, not slowing things down. And if you put a scene in between them, you break people's concentration, people's immersion, people's sense of involvement. And you've already cut out stuff prior to that makes you less involved. And the scene is just, you feel that given how bland their expressions are, there's no sense of shock at being betrayed or outrage or a sense of being in pain because you have a needle stuck into you. It's like they're like two mannequins talking to each other. And the two mannequins talking to each other with one person at one end of the room and another person at the other end of the room. There's this sense of huge distance. They aren't, but you feel that. You literally have to squint your eyes to see the other guy at the other end of the room if you're in the scene. Compare that again to the David Lynch movie where Wellington Yueh, his face is so close to the Duke, you can almost feel the sweat on his brow on your face. You can almost feel his breath on your face. It's that immersive. And Dr. Yueh, Dean Stockwell, we all know from Quantum Leap, this is one of his best performances. You can tell that he's having an adrenaline rush while he's telling him, "I've brought your great house down." He knows what he's done. He knows that he's changed the course of history, that he's ended a dynasty, a noble house that's existed for hundreds of years, him by himself, just through his action. And his name is going to live on in infamy forever. And it says that in the novel. "Oh, Yueh, how many millions have to die for you?" And he's feeling that adrenaline rush, even though he's actually a good person and he loves the Atreides and hates the Harkonnens. Nonetheless, the weight of the moment is hitting him, impact. You don't see any of that in the new movie. The new movie, the guy, again, is just a mannequin. It's like he's took antidepressants or something before he started talking, before he started doing his betrayal. It's just terrible. Terrible, inexcusably terrible. And like I said, the David Lynch movie is very close to the novel. It's simplified, which you needed, but it works. It works so well. Here, they don't put what's in the novel supposedly to save time, and then they waste time, and it just elongated forever. Then what happens? Then the Baron comes and he asks, "Now I want my wife. You promised me." "I did." "Oh, I did." And then he slices his head off or slits his throat, or cheesy, boring, cliche thing. Now, to prove to you how badly written this is, it's not just that it isn't true to the novel. Piter is the one who kills him. I'll talk about that a bit later. It's terrible writing. It's B-movie level writing and beneath B-movie. And I can prove it to you. Forensically. Do you know how I can prove it to you? Do you know how I can prove it? A Olivier Gruner movie called The Circuit. A very bad Olivier Gruner movie called The Circuit. Street fighting type movie set in Canada. I like street fighting movies, but this one is really just tacky and muffled. Fight sequences are muffled. In the movie, one of the characters, a friend of Olivier Gruner, got into the street fighting circuit because he fell into debt, and the gangster who he owes money to blackmails him. And there's this key scene where he asks him, You said if I fought and won so many fights, you'd pay off my debts. You promised me. I said, I did? Oh, I did. The exact same line that you have in Dune, Part 1. That's the level of writing that they're operating. They take one of the greatest science fiction novels ever read, an epic novel of betrayal and feudalism and aristocracy transposed into the future, and they transform it into something that's B-movie level by B-movie level standards. So that's how badly written it is, tacky and cheesy. And again, it's also not true to the novel and not true to the world of the novel. In the novel, Piter kills Yue, and Piter kills Yue in the David Lynch movie as well. Here, it's the Baron. But again, understand that Piter is the evil machination guy for the Baron, and that's what the Mentats do in this world. They're the heads of the Leagues of Assassins. He's the guy who recruits spies, recruits traitors, recruits double agents, trains them. He's the one who finds their weak point and corrupts them or blackmails them into working for him. And he's the guy who broke Yue's moral conditioning. But again, you can't allow anybody to outshine the Baron in the cheesy, cliched world of this new movie, the way it's written. So they have to downplay him. And he's just there for the sake of being there. And him getting killed just again has no impact as a consequence. And again, they don't understand the world of the novel. Aristocrats don't do things themselves. They get other people to do things for them. They never had to work for themselves for a day in their lives. That's why you have people like the Mentats who do the plotting and scheming. Also, in the David Lynch movie, the Baron refuses to touch the Dr. Yue. He says, don't let him touch me. That's true. Napoleon, when he was in Egypt, and he gave money to a Mamluk, a slave soldier who was helping him, he refused to let the guy touch him. He says, I don't sully my hand with a touch of traitors. Take your money and go away. Don't let me see you ever again. He's a man of honor. He wants to face his rivals face to face. That's the world of the novel. And that's the world of the David Lynch movie, but it's not the world of this postmodernist IT capitalism world of the new movie. So that shows you again that Denis Villeneuve or the production team do not understand the novel at any level, science fiction or social systems, aristocracy and history. Anyway, leave that aside. It's just a it's just a terribly written scene, a cheesy, corny, cliched, crappy scene. Now, what happens next? In the David Lynch movie and in the novel, you have Piter and Lady Jessica, and he tells her, I have imagined so many dark pleasures between you and me. Maybe perhaps it is better that you die in the belly of a worm. You cloud my judgment. That is not good. That is bad. And that is true to the novel. That's what happens there. And of course you have Brad Dourif playing Piter, who's a guy who specializes in psychopaths and serial killers and mentally dangerous people. Perfect choice. Here, the guy who looks like a walking mummified person. You can't tell whether he's alive or dead. No emotions whatsoever. And at the same time, he doesn't have a keen intelligence instead of those emotions. So what's the point of having it? So it's just it's inane and stupid and not true to the novel. Now, incidentally, I don't have a problem with somebody doing something not true to the text. If you do something, say that you're doing something different and do it right. Produce something better or something just as interesting, just as impactful. He insists that he's doing the proper adaptation and that he's been dreaming of this since he was a kid, and the thing that disappointed him with the David Lynch movie was it wasn't true to them. And he does the exact opposite. He isn't true to the novel, and he does a lousy job of it as well. So again, you can see that why I just don't like Dune Part 1. When I was in the movie theater, it was, I won't say jam-packed, but had a lot of people in it, and people who were fans of Denis Villeneuve. I swear this happened. There was a family behind me who were Sudanese, you could tell from their accents, and they're saying, this is Denis Villeneuve, the guy who did Arrival and Sicario. By the end of the movie, they were laughing, and I don't mean laughing in a good way. They were laughing at the movie. and there was a tremendous sense of disappointment in the crowd. And just 1 week before, in that same movie theater, I'd watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. First time I'd ever seen it in cinema, and it was part of a Stanley Kubrick week or month. And the place was jam-packed, and it got, I would say, something like a standing ovation at the end of it. I thought that they were going to be disappointed with the vague ending, and it's not the clearest ending in the world. I like highbrow stuff, but young people in Egypt, it's different. They were all aghast and really into it. So that's a good litmus test of why Dune Part 1 is just a tremendous disappointment. Thank heavens they fixed a lot of things by Dune Part 2, but even there are problems. But that's enough for today. We'll talk about the serious stuff next time. This is Emad, signing out.